Hey everybody, welcome back to Matthew Kelly Pottery. I hope you are doing well. Today we're going to talk about lidded miniature pots like this one right here. I just threw this one just a couple minutes ago and wired it off of this hump, and I thought I would start the video just showing you a finished product, but I'm going to walk through the steps of how I do this, and actually it's actually considerably different than the first couple that I made. And so I think I learned some things that made this much easier now than the first couple I made, but either way we're going to walk through how I'm making these now, and if that changes in the future maybe we'll make another video and I'll explain how I do that. Don't know how many lidded miniature pots I'm going to make in my life, but either way I think it's pretty cool to have this little miniature little lidded miniature pot all made at the same time, all thrown with the close it all the way off and then separate the lid, trim the pot, trim the lid, all at one time here. And like I said, this is stiffened up now because I used a torch on it, which I'll show you in a minute. But yeah, it's all made at one time out of one piece, and we'll show you that now. And yeah, we'll get started. So have my wheel reversed because I was cutting that off of the hump, but I centered about 3 pounds of clay here and then comb this up where I'm going to make this piece. So I do have a little miniature torch here that I'm going to use for part of the process here to stiffen this up so that I can manipulate it a bit more while it's still on the wheel. The other option, which I did with my first lidded miniature pots that I made, was to just throw them all in one piece, leave them solid, and then come back later as they stiffened and separate the top, which does work but takes, you know, a bit more time, and having to reconnect that piece back to the wheel is a bit difficult when it's something that small. So doing these all at one piece at one time actually is quite a lot easier, because I'm actually going to leave this piece attached to the hump as I work on the top of the jar section and as I work on the underside of the lid. So I threw this and I've left quite a bit of thickness up here at the top. The whole thing is not super thin. If you get it too thin down here, then you have to worry about that collapsing as you work on it as well. But I've left, considering the size of the piece, I've left quite a bit of thickness up here at the top, and now I'm going to neck this in and close this completely off at the top. And that's what's going to make my lid and my knob right there at the top. Now that in and of itself can be pretty challenging for people, but you have to just leave enough clay up there that you can close that off, and obviously working with a smaller amount of clay makes that considerably easier. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little tool. It's the same tool I actually use when making a lot of work with face jugs. I've got a little wooden tool here that has like a rounded edge on one end and kind of a little bit more of a squared tip on the other wooden tool, and I like to use this to then kind of start separating where the edge of the lid's going to be and then the knob. So I'm going to kind of start pushing in here and get to where I'm kind of pushing down and in and kind of separating where, let's say I want that to be my lid right there. The good thing about trapping that air inside is that you have the air inside pushing back against where you're applying the pressure with the tool so that it doesn't collapse in on itself. And then and you got to keep this wet, and I'm actually then gonna use the tool as well to push in and make my knob. So using my left hand as kind of support and shaping while I'm going in with this tool and making the shape that I need, the underside, and I'm kind of curving this up under so that I get the shape of my knob there on top. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I got a real nice rounded shape on the base of it there as well. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of my undercut for my foot's going to go. Don't want to get that too skinny on the bottom because that'll make a weak point as well. Now I'm just going to sponge it off And then here's the first couple I made. Like I said, first couple I made, I just left them like this, and then came back later after. Excuse me, dropped a ruler there. Came back later after they stiffened up, put them back on the wheel, used lugs, attached it, separated the lid, all that. I'm going to leave this attached to here, but in order to separate the two, I'm going to have to torch it. So, and if I just torch this the way it is, the challenge I will have is that the air inside is expanding as it heats up, and that causes it to want to blow out wherever the weakest point is. So what I just did on the last one and realized that this would be a big help, I'm going to take my needle tool and actually go back down in the very top of the lid, the knob, and make a hole. That will allow air to escape that I'm heating up. Now I'm going to take my little miniature torch that I have here, which is just one of these blue canisters with the automatic lighting tip there, and I'm going to torch every bit of this all the way. I'm not going to torch the knob if I can help it, not too much. I want to dry it off, but I don't want to get it super dry. But I definitely want to torch the base to give it strength, and I also want to torch the lid and the connection point there, right there where I'm going to separate the two, because I don't want that to be too soft. The good thing is I'm just torching the outside, of course, because I can't get to the inside. But so that's still, I'm not removing all the moisture out of the clay, but I am stiffening it up enough that now, as you can see, it lost all of its glossiness. You can see a little bit of steam coming off there. Now what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to go ahead now and use some water and close that hole back off. Be careful, because it can be hot. And then I'm going to use my needle tool, wet my needle tool. I'm actually going to come right here at the edge of what my lid's going to be, and I'm actually just going to start, add a little bit of water. I'm just going to cut straight down, kind of a little bit of an angle, but cut down in to separate the lid from the base. And this should be stiff enough now that I can pick this up, and you can see there that I've separated that at an angle coming from where it was, and that leaves me extra clay there to then make the gallery that's going to be in the lid to go on the bottom. So I'm just going to set that aside, and now I'm going to work on the base there. So what I'm doing now is, now I'm going to add water back to this and smooth that up where the top of this is going to be. And now I want to bring this in as well. I don't want to leave this wide, because if I leave this wide and I make a gallery in the lid, you can see it's not gonna, the gallery on the lid, or the little lip that sticks down on the lid, is going to be too small for how wide this is. So add water back to that. I'm going to use my rib, and I'm going to push in, and also at the same time making this little lip that stands up. I like to do this on most of my lidded pieces, make a kind of a spot that stands up above the belly of the piece. And like I said, because I've stiffened this, it's a whole lot easier to do this. Push it in a little bit farther here. There we go. Something like that. And now I can torch this a little bit, dry that water back off where I put some water on there. Main reason I dry this off is so that as I don't want the lid sticking to where that's going to be. So now you can see the lid, the out part here is going to be a little bit wider than what I just made there, and it gives me enough room to use this bottom portion of the clay to push back in and make the gallery. Now what I'm going to do, and the other main reason I dried this off, is now I'm going to turn this lid upside down and get it set right back down in there, and use it as a chuck to trim this lid. So I'm going to kind of get this centered back with the bottom. It's a little higher on one side than the other. There we go. Maybe that'll do it. Yeah, that's it. That's better. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to wet my finger that's going to go on the inside, because I want it to glide as I'm working on this. So I'm going to wet that, and then that'll allow me to use my finger to glide across that. And then I'm going to use the same wooden tool that I used to separate them earlier, and then I'm going to use it as I'm applying down pressure with my left finger, my left index finger. I'm going to push in with this tool to then make this little, make the gallery in the lid. Alright, and now I want to dry this off so that then I can flip it over and test the size of it with, now I guess I could have used calipers to get my size right. That's another idea that I hadn't thought about. The last time I did this, I just kind of like dried it, flipped it over, and tested how the size of it. And there you go. So first try. Last one I did wasn't first try. I had to try it a couple times to get the size right. But either way, that one I got on the first try. Now, like I said, I've got that. And if there's too much heat, too much moisture coming out of there, when you put the lid on, if you leave it on there too long, it can actually kind of stick a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is use my string on a stick, like the last video I showed you where I made miniatures, and now I'm going to make the little foot at the base and then make my point that I want to cut at right below that. So now I only have my jar, I have my foot, and then I have the spot where I'm going to cut from. And I'm going to reverse the wheel so I can watch where I'm putting this wire in. I'll put the wire in right at that cut spot. I'm going to let go with my left side. Once it comes all the way around, then I'm going to just pull straight out, and then I should be able to lift this up and have a flat bottom, as you can see by what's there. And now I have a miniature lidded jar, all made in one piece and all trimmed and ready to go, all at the same time, not having to do any breaks for it to stop. I don't have to use any little chunks of clay to attach it back to the wheel. And I got little miniature pot, and obviously, you know, you could go wild with this. I could turn this into a teapot with a handle and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, I promised you guys that I would show you how to make a miniature lidded pot, and so this is the newest way that I've learned to do this, and as you can see, it's pretty quick and a lot of fun. So I hope you guys enjoy that. I hope you give it a shot, and if you do, send me pictures, videos, tag me on Instagram or YouTube and show me what you've made. I'd love to see it, and I'd love to know how it works for you. So anyway, thank you guys for your support, and we'll see you soon.